this is something that all pieces of media, even before Arcane, and Arcane has solidified, which is just the growling of Warwick and how terrifying this creature is. So no wonder he got everyone's attention with just a growl. I'd be running too.
Yeah, dude, a wolf is bad enough. An augmented wolf growl or howl or whatever you want to fucking call whatever that noise is.
You probably see like the green chem pumps on his back first. That's all I need. That's all I need. I'm gone.
Welcome to Casuals of Runeterra, episode 172. I'm your host, Ryan, here with the other host, Hedge.
Yes, and we are once again going to be going through the alleys of Zaun, our favorite place to be.
Yeah, we do dwell here a good bit. It's funny, I feel like Arcane has made it to where we've had this shift in content where it's so heavily focused on Piltover Zaun against our will.
Hey, you know, like, let's remember that, like, the last big property that had us shift our focus was to focusing on the Star Guardians. So, at the very least, we're still in Runeterra.
True. But something that's also familiar is housekeeping up top. You can listen to us everywhere. Visit us at podcastcore.com for all of our info. Email us at podcastcore@gmail.com. Follow us on all platforms. That helps us with discoverability. We appreciate it. Leave a like and comment wherever you listen. But word of mouth has gotten us this far. So tell a friend to try their best to do good by listening to the Casuals of Runeterra podcast.
Yeah. And be gentle with yourself when you don't always do good. Because sometimes you're not in control. Sometimes the blood says otherwise.
When the chamber pumps, the mind clears. So, general, before we get into the story best told in 3 parts, once again, written by David Slagle. Who also wrote the previous bio, which is out of date. This one could still fit somewhere neatly in Arcane if you wanted to, but we'll talk about its inspiration, at least as we think, to Arcane's depiction of Warwick. But let's get into it. The story's title is If They Run. It's a good title. Part 1. So we have Warwick hiding in the shadows, and he's watching a shady business deal go down. He sees a girl take a message from one of the Baron's men, specifically Baron Spindlow, and she places it in a tube, and he gives her some instructions.
This is, to me, it's actually kind of cool with this because it's something that Arcane actually shines some light on, like many years later, almost a decade later, because now we know what the tubes look like. Like, we get to see the tubes in Arcane because that's something that that Vander, a way that he was communicating with, oh Lord, I forgot her name. Well, you know, this is how Vander was communicating with the police in Piltover. So we know how, as far as like how the enforcers are connected into the same system. So Piltover, in essence, it's all connected with Zaun. So it's interesting as far as like Arcane is able to shine a light on what this little, sump rat is running around for a Chem Baron 10 years ago.
Yeah, and they even refer to them as runners. And that's a concept that we've seen in like cyberpunk worlds and fantasy worlds as far as, messengers and stuff like that. It's a concept that it's kind of universal in fantasy and media in general. But Warwick does mention that the guy who's giving her essentially this deal or this tube or message, that she puts in a tube, He's seen him before. He looks familiar. And last time he saw him, there was an altercation and he took his leg. But he's already got a crappy replacement, as you do in Zaun. And he's back to his shady deals because losing a leg does not stop you from being a ganger.
I and let's not forget, because if you listen to our bio for Warwick, first, thank you. But let's not forget that it is outdated. So this is also back when, the glorious evolution for Victor is more kind of, Warhammer
Mhm.
Adeptus Mechanicus style of the flesh
Yep.
is weakness. Let's augment our own bodies. So of course he's already got a new leg because he's in the heart of the glorious evolution town.
Mhm.
So this makes sense as far as when we're still within that lens of what Runeterra looked like.
Yeah. And then we wrap up part one where the ganger also gives this girl some cog shaped coins for her business. And Warwick can smell the blood on them. And he talks about how coins are just pain, and that pain is tracked by the blood that covers them as they pass from hand to hand. It's this whole thing. It's pretty well done. And then Warwick lets out a growl at that moment, and that got everyone's attention. And the girl specifically only had to take one look before she took off. And she's fast, but she's afraid and she's vulnerable. And to Warwick, this is perfect. She's the perfect target. Warwick begins his hunt and starts following her.
And yeah, this is something that all pieces of media, even before Arcane, and Arcane has solidified, which is just the growling of Warwick and how terrifying this creature is. So no wonder he got everyone's attention with just a growl. I'd be running too.
Yeah, dude, a wolf is bad enough. An augmented wolf growl or howl or whatever you want to fucking call whatever that noise is.
You probably see like the green chem pumps on his back first.
Yeah,
That's all I need. That's all I need. I'm gone.
So part two, they both are moving through the city at lightning speed, leaping across rooftops, running through alleys, and at one point she tries to like do this double back, showing that she has a great knowledge of the city, obviously as a runner, that rivals Warwick's because he's been hunting people for who knows how long at this point. And he knew that she knew that he was leading her away from the sanctuary, which is the place that she wants to go. And where he was leading her was somewhere that runners always try to avoid and that runners fear the most.
Uh, and to me, this is one of the cool things with this is the first instance that we get to see as far as like Warwick's thought process that is wolf-like,
Mhm.
that's not driven by just anger and blood.
Yes.
Because wolves are like, yes, they're pack hunters, but they're very intelligent hunters. They usually will corral their prey
Mhm.
into an area that benefits them the most before the kill. And that's exactly what Warwick is doing here. So it's really cool to see that like the animal behavior that's not just the scary crap
Yeah.
is still, a part of this new creature's being.
Yeah. And Warwick, as he's chasing her, is also doing more. There's more thought going into it where he's like, okay, I need her to be more afraid of me than where I'm leading her since she's catching on to it. So he speeds up and he lands in front of her, letting out a roar of rage and even like scratches a pipe or whatever to kind of, make himself big like he would in front of a bear. She hesitates and then turns back into the depths where he needs her to go.
And one of the lines here is that he needs her to go to where all that can survive down there is the gray being let out.
Mhm.
And luckily for a lot of our arcane viewers, we know a lot more about the gray now.
Yeah.
So this is the greatest clue that we could get as far
Mhm.
as where Warwick is corralling her. We are going into the ventilation system.
Yep. Perfect. So he can hear her labored breathing. Obviously, he's been chasing her for a while as she's maneuvering through all the obstacles. And he can also hear her praying to the wind goddess. And he thinks that he should do the same. Check out our Jana episode if you want to know more about that, which I think is a neat addition, especially so early in the content. Because remember, these are retconned essentially. And the excitement from this chase is starting to remind him of at any point he can kill her and it would be so easy. And he's starting to let in a little more of the feralness rather than the thoughtfulness that we've seen up to this point on this mission that his own mission, and he almost forgets why he should spare her until she stops at a ledge and is forced to look back at him. And for the first time, he gets to see his reflection in her eyes, and it reminds him of what he's doing.
Yeah. And this is where, like, this is kind of at the point where we start to see that it's like the man inside of Warwick is still in control at this point, which, especially with going through his bio and most specifically like going through Sin's short story, the Beast has been in control when it comes to the pre-retcon Warwick. Like, pre-Vander Warwick, the Beast is 100% in the driver's seat for the majority of the time. So this is, for me, this is honestly one of the first times that we get to see kind of the perspective of that duality, like even before we start getting into the retcon territory. So this was a very interesting take right here. And unfortunately, with how interesting the take is, this is pretty much the only time we get to see the take.
Yeah, pretty much. So in her tears, he sees what reminds him of what he's doing. So he pulls back at this point and he howls while he's in the darkness. And this drives her forward. Remember, she still needs to get to the point he needs her at. And she drops down into the maze of pipes, and he follows her until she reaches a dead end. And she believes this is it. He's going to kill me. But what she doesn't know is she's just the bait for his true prey. And this takes us to part 3.
And this is a bit of a spoiler right here. The fact that the girl is leading, or like Warwick is using the girl as bait, was revealed a long time ago, and we just don't agree with it. So usually, like we're encouraging you guys to go read the stories, and we're still going to encourage it because we want more of these stories. So the more people read them, the more that Riot will know we're enjoying them. So still, go read it if that's something you're interested in doing. But spoilers, the twist is right in the middle.
Yeah,
just right in the middle. So I'm gonna just say it now to get it out of the way.
So part 3, we start off with a little quote here, and it says, well, look what fell out of the gray, a ganger says. And and his friends surround this girl, right? And they all have blades in their hands, as gangers do. And another girl kind of comes to mind for Warwick, which is one we've brought up in his story, which is not a fully formed memory, but something he keeps going back to. And he quickly shakes it away because he likes to avoid that memory. And then the gangers recognize this girl specifically as a runner for Boggins, and she tries to warn them that something is following her. But the gangers, they're not interested in that. They're interested in what's in the tube she's carrying. And also, they're having a bit of fun with her. So they knock the tube out of her hand, and one of them grab her roughly, and then there's this flash of steel, and then there's blood. And we know what happens when blood is spilt around Warwick, especially when Warwick is in the shadows. And the scent immediately enrages Warwick. The chambers on his back begin to pump, and he's lost.
and I really like the imagery as far as like with the blood kind of igniting Warwick here, because it is like, that is the most iconic thing of like Warwick's character from League of Legends. But I really enjoy this because it's like this whole buildup as far as watching these gangers like circle around this girl. He's hiding, like he's doing the wolf stalking thing, and then the moment there's blood, it's just mechanical pump whirring, and all of a sudden it is not a secret anymore of Warwick being in the shadows.
Yeah, it's kind of the saddest part of his existence is that no matter how close he gets to consciousness, all it takes is something so common as blood spilling in Zaun to drive him insane. And this is followed by a roar that consumes the darkness. And then everyone kind of cries out, and he slashes at one of the gangers. This starts the ruckus. It crumples to the stone. And then he can't really figure out where this girl is in all this mess. He's losing track of her in the mayhem. And blades stab, claws blur, jaws clamp, cracking bones. It's just all that mess. If this was Arcane, this would be the point where they start to shift the media a bit, where there's jumping between 2D and 3D, and there's flashing, and the music intensifies. And all he knows is he can taste more and more and more blood.
Yeah, well, like I said, it's just like that is what is the most iconic thing as far as with his character. But then it's like it's all consuming at that point, right?
Yeah,
And I love that you're bringing up like Arcane here because it's like this is Arcane had like did such a great job as far as like putting this side of Warwick into the show, right?
yeah,
Because with a we've mentioned it before already, but this is different than Arcane. Like it's not Vander's story. Like this
yeah.
is the original Warwick story. And like the fact that they like held this part very well is just perfect because we kind of know what it looks like as far as Warwick's perspective because we got to see it in the prison.
Yes,
And
yes, exactly.
it was
Perfect.
bad.
Yeah, it was real bad. That's actually a great reference to, and most likely where they pulled that inspiration from was this moment in the story. And then there's a moment where she gets track of her again because he sees a ganger over her with the shiv raised, ready to do some devious work. And he knows he can stop her, but before the consciousness starts catching up again, the machine begins to pump and pump, and his mind goes blank again, and everything is a blur again, and it's forgotten. Everything is forgotten. Everything just becomes blood again until later, he does not know if he saved her or not, but he's still biting through something fleshy when he notices surviving gangers, there's still a bunch of them fleeing off into the darkness, and that kind of brings him back to reality again. And all he does is turn and start to follow them into the darkness without an option. It's just instinct to chase them. And he chases them because they're monsters. He hunts monsters because he's one of them. But he never knows what happened to the girl. Did he save her or did he not?
And that's something that he will never know because he like he's saying right here he is a monster.
Yeah.
He's at the very least he's fully aware that it's like yeah like that's not an option like
Yeah.
it's the I'm never going to know that like and I'm but for him it's less about the idea of saving someone and it's more about why am I thinking that way
Yeah.
because this is not the consciousness of the beast, right? Like, because what the consciousness of the beast is there is when he's just seeing red and biting on something fleshy. And that's literally all he's thinking of. Like, it's
Yeah.
the instinct that's running him. And this does a great job of really painting when the instinct takes control because he's like, yeah, I'm eating, but ooh, more food's over there. Let me go get
Yeah, I
it.
mean, we see this in animals in real life. If you've ever had a pet, specifically dogs, when dogs are fighting or tussling, they tell you not to try to intervene directly, because they won't be able to tell between you and what's going on, right? Because they're in a mode of like not savagery, but they're focused on attacking or defending. They don't know what's happening in that space. They're just focused on that goal. So Warwick going through the same thing, it seems like this was obvious inspiration for what we got as far as his story beats, like how it progressed. If you knew Warwick's story going into Arcane, then spoilers, you would know that there was never a happy ending for Vander once he became Warwick because the character was never set up like that, right?
Right.
The root, the core, the foundation of what Warwick is in the story is still present um, in Arcane. It's just been touched up a bunch to have more value to the story, to have more dynamics to the story, but ultimately the end is the same.
Yeah, I mean, for I've always like I've been viewing Vander's story as far as like taking something that was already good, like a steak,
Yeah.
and like Vander's story is adding the baked potato in a salad, right?
Yeah.
Like now it's he's fleshing it out to make it a complete meal because now that we've with taken this story and combining that with like the original bio of
Yep.
Warwick, when you look at it that way, it's like we don't know who Warwick was before this, and it's like
Yeah.
that was like the core concept of his character was that he was aware that he was something before this. And
Yeah.
he was aware that he wasn't that fond of who he was before this, but he doesn't know what that was at all. Like it is just the beast. And Vander is just like, okay, cool. Let's explore the idea of who Warwick was before this. Like
Yeah.
this is kind of like when you're looking at spaces of fantasy worlds that have existed for a long time,
Mhm.
these are the stories that like you can see where a lot of like the creativity of the writers come in, because it's like they're leaving themselves something to go back to. Like
Yeah.
it's or it's like a life raft in the middle of the ocean. Like it's like not or a bit more dramatic. That it's like an
I'm following.
oasis.
Yeah.
It's like an oasis in or not even oasis, a canteen in a amusement park.
Yeah.
That's better. It's a canteen in an amusement park. You are in this place. You don't know when you're going to get something to eat, like for the next couple hours. Like,
Yeah.
which you're gonna be okay, right? Like you're gonna be fine. Like you just go enjoy the amusement park. You might be hungry by the time you leave, but you'll leave.
Yeah.
But then you find that canteen that's selling like chips for like $2 a bag, like
Yeah.
something that's actually reasonable. And it's like, you know what? Yeah, that's nice. Let me get that. And that's what this story feels like to me, which is like,
Yeah.
cool. You don't need to flesh out the idea of who Warwick was before, but we could always do it if we
Yeah.
wanted to.
Yeah.
And then they found a story where they could fit Warwick's story into it, right? Because the Arcane is definitely the tale of Vi and Jinx, no matter how you want to look at it, right? Like
Yeah.
that is their story, and it's taking place in the catastrophe of like Piltover, thanks to Victor.
Yeah.
But we're watching those two for the most part of it, and it's like this is now we can flesh out the idea of what brings these two together. All right, cool. Let's go back to that canteen. Let's get ourselves a bag of chips, and the bag of
Yep.
chips is fleshing out Warwick's story, and it turns out to be a really damn good bag of chips at that point.
Yeah, and what we're left with, now in the general discussion section, is that with the fate of Warwick, we had that experience through season 1 and 2. We're going to Noxus, and Singed, we know he plays a role. We don't know how the Arcane writer is going to make him play a role in Noxus, but we know what we want, right? We want them to do Oppenheimer. Well, we now have Warwick's experience as something that the viewers have cared about. It's something that we have in our memories. It's something that we get to mourn as we move throughout the story, because forevermore Warwick's experience will be tied to Singed. Singed is alive, and Singed would move on through the story doing whatever role he plays. Hopefully he plays a role. I hope they don't ditch him completely.
Oh God, mate! We
doubt it.
will riot.
Yeah.
We will riot if it'll just be the two of us like picketing it, right? Like,
Yeah,
bring back
exactly.
Oppenheimer.
Yeah, so Warwick, they took a lot. They got a lot of value out of this story, and I think we've said it multiple times before. We're happy with how Warwick was used, because even before we got Warwick, Hetch mentioned, I want to see some of these monsters, right? He wanted an Urgot, he wanted Warwick, he wants Blitzcrank, and we got Warwick, and they did well with it. So, yeah, props to him. Hats off. You pulled it off. As far as in our book. Well,
Yeah,
I'll speak for myself and let you say it. But yeah, I think they pulled it off.
I fully agree. Like,
Yeah.
they gave themselves, an avenue to like really paint themselves a nice little story inside of a wonderful story to begin with. And they stayed true to what Warwick is, right?
Yes.
Like at no point am I walking away from it being upset of like, like what they've done to Warwick, and it's like he's not the same anymore.
Yeah.
Like I
Look
mean,
what they've done
hell,
to my
like
boy.
look what they did to my boy. Like like the closest that I could even argue, like, and this is like really getting into the weeds and getting
Yeah.
lost in the sauce,
Yeah.
is like I like the implications of like Oriana being Singed's daughter.
Yeah.
Is like that is like that's where I like start getting like a little bit fishy, because like the Oriana's story is like not Oriana's story. When you look at her father, that is not Singed at
Yeah.
all.
Yeah.
but
Complete
but
180.
Singed was also like not human in his bio, right? Like he was always just the mad scientist,
Yeah.
where Arcane definitely fleshed him out more. All right. And that, but like diving down that road is like getting lost in the sauce. Like, and the reality is that they did a wonderful job of like staying true to what the heroes have been to the players of League of Legends
Yeah.
for years, right? Like they stayed true to that, and they made a wonderful story that fleshes out like those ideas a bit more and makes those good ideas that we fell in love with, makes it more human and more relatable.
Yeah.
And that's good storytelling, and I can't ever get upset about that. And especially with Warwick, like they just home run, absolute home run, because they took a character that was basically unnamed, that no one cared about, and made us care about that character and the character that he became. We still know and are terrified of.
I definitely think when people said they wanted Warwick originally, I think it was definitely a physical thing. It's like, we just want to see him represented as the cool werewolf, right?
Yeah.
And what they gave us was actual character on top of some really cool physical scenes. Like, I mean, the action scenes with Warwick are amazing, are emotional. I mean, the cave scene where Vi and Jinx find him, and like they did so much with this character. They went above and beyond, like Hetch mentioned, with this character to establish so much of the care that we now have for the story and its characters. So yeah, rest in peace, Vander.
And they also found a way to make it more terrifying, because man, the glorious evolution Warwick was not on my bingo card, and that like I'm not gonna lie to you, I've had at least one nightmare as far as just this of just like this supersonic bullet of metal werewolf flying at people, and it's like that is some dystopian
the
nightmare
silent
fuel.
Warwick, which was like to have two forms and both forms fucking terrifying. You know what? The more we talk, and this is why I like doing the show, is the more we talk about it, the more impressed I'm getting.
Yeah. Arcane is great. Like we have said it until we were blue in the face. Oh yeah, the hottest of takes. Go and rewatch Arcane. It's a damn good show, and I'm glad that we were able to record our show to kind of let us get our 2 cents in on the original Warwick, because who knows how long these stories are going to be easily accessible, because that's the beauty of like things growing, is that we get something beautiful out of it. But one of the things that's bittersweet about it is the old stories are going to fall off to the side, because I don't care about this Warwick anymore, because Vander fleshed him out. I care about Vander. And so who knows how long that this is going to be easily accessible, because I don't think it's a far-fetched idea to assume that Riot will probably go back and give us some written content of Vander's Warwick and let that be his bio and his story. And like this stuff will just kind of go into some filing cabinet somewhere. Who knows?
You heard it here first. Casuals of Runeterra, the official paper of record. Eat your heart out, great lady. New York Times has nothing on us.
That's right. That's right. We are now the casual ladies. The casual great ladies.
The casual ladies. All right. We'll leave it there. Thanks for letting us yap as always. We'll be back soon. And now we've gotten Singed and Warwick out of the way, there's some LeBlanc stories we gotta go talk about. We're still in the year of maybe Welcome to Noxus. Once again, we have no idea, but we're excited nonetheless. But we do want to bring those to you, so keep an eye out for those stories coming soon. So thanks for listening. We'll be back soon with the next episode.
Yeah, take care, everybody.